Welcome to One Man at a Time, the Kenmen Show. Please like and subscribe to our channel.
The Kenmen Show. We are strong together.
It's another beautiful Saturday. We are here for Wellness and Health Show presented to you by Kenmen. It's my hope and that you're all doing well all over the world while you're listening us or while you're watching us. Thank you very much for your time and welcome to the Diaspora Media Max platform. You can reach on us. You can view us on Facebook and we are called Diaspora Media Max Radio, and you can listen to us live on our website www.diasporamediamax.com, and also you can download our app. It's DM Max Radio, DMMAX Radio, and also you can watch us on YouTube. We are there on YouTube, and we encourage you to go and download our app because we are shifting everything to our app because as you know all the time, Facebook platform is not usually secure, and sometimes you cannot even get to it. Sometimes you have a lot of issues, but you can watch us right without no technical issues on our app DMMAX Radio. And welcome my co-host Alice Munywa. Thank you, Dr. Ali. How are you? How was your week? And how is North Carolina? California is nice and sunny. It's 60 degrees right now here. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Wow, that sounds like fun. People going outside?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, it's not as warm over here, but it's getting better. You know, it's February.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm about to run for my jogging after the show. So what do you have for us today?
Wow, today we're going to talk about a disease that I have wanted to talk for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
The disease itself is called Alzheimer's disease.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember 2 years ago, I had gone to a conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the presenter saying, because everything they have tried many cures for this disease.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, there are so many drugs that are in clinical trials.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, everything for like the last 30 years, especially the last 30 years, because the problem keeps going up, it keeps escalating. They have tried to look for a cure. So the presenter said they are seriously looking for a cure. And whoever can come, if anybody can come up with a cure, because everything they have tried has failed 100%.
Oh, wow. We should be going there, and maybe you can be billionaires very soon.
Well, Alex, that's what I was hoping.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I know what the
cure no cure, so
I know what the cure is.
Mm.
The problem,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they'll listen to me, but I hope they do. And that's why I'm here today. Because the pharmaceuticals company, they probably won't listen because there's no money to be made in the cure.
No.
But for the regular,
there's no way in this world.
If no money, nothing. Wow. Nothing. You know, money moves the world.
Yeah.
The cure that I know, and it's 100% it will work.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't involve pills, because that's the problem. Yeah, I mean, people think that they can cure everything with food, either food or a drug.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only language that most people understand. So thinking that they can cure a disease like this, a disease as detrimental as Alzheimer's disease without medicine, that is a concept most people don't understand. But we'll try and make them understand, Alex. So hopefully today we can become millionaires.
Oh, I'm ready to strike it big. I'm ready to hit the jackpot.
Yes. So that's why we are talking directly to you, the listeners, because you're the ones who are affected. So unless you want to think of another way you can handle this, and actually the key is not difficult. The concept might be a little bit difficult for some people, but for some of you, it's not going to be hard to understand. But once you understand, you know that you can cure this disease. So I keep saying, if you understand what the root cause is of any problem, you will have no problem finding a cure. So today I'm going to try and dig deep to the root cause. And once I tell you what the root cause is, hopefully it won't be difficult to get the concept of how you can cure it. Instead, because the alternative will be you're going to go bankrupt trying to deal with this disease. You know, most people who are affected cannot take care of themselves.
No, they can't.
Yeah. And it's their brain that's affected. And they have to go to a special nursing care because not everybody can take care of Alzheimer's patients. They are very, very difficult to take care of. And you end up spending your life savings, your whole life savings.
Yep.
And even more. It costs in the millions, the care of an Alzheimer's patient. And because most of them with good care, really, with good physical care, these people, it's their brain that's affected. The rest of the body is working fine, you know, for most of them. So they can live for a very long time. Some of them can live with this disease for more than 20 years.
Oh,
what are you going to do? And you can't maintain them at home. So
put them in a nursing home.
Yeah. It's either that or you're going to have 24 hours a day nursing care in your own house. Most people can't afford that. So nothing about this disease is cheap. And right now in the US, yeah, in the US, about 5.8 million people are affected. So if you're listening to this podcast today, and maybe you have a family member, think about sponsoring me and Alex, and we'll be able to guide you through how you can get cured and you can save all that money.
So you're saying we can cure Alzheimer's disease?
Yeah. Once you understand what the root cause is, then it's not difficult. So I knew this. I knew this 2 years ago when I went to that conference. And I didn't say anything because nobody thinks that you can cure something without a thing, you know?
But I'm eager to listen how you're going to cure Alzheimer's right here without taking a pill and digging deep down to the root cause and come up with a cure here. And I hope by the end of this program, I'll be striking it rich.
Okay, Alex. Seriously, I'm not even kidding because the alternative is so bad. You're gonna spend money either way. So sponsoring me and Alex will be a great thing, and sponsoring DMX Radio because they're the ones who are bringing this show to you. So worldwide, 50 million people worldwide have dementia.
50 million people, wow.
But Alzheimer's dementia, 70% of those people have Alzheimer's dementia. So Alzheimer's is the most difficult type of dementia. There are different kinds. Alzheimer's is the most difficult to take care of, and it's the most common. So, I don't know. I messed up my notes here. So, but I was saying, it's not every facility that can take care of Alzheimer's disease. Number one, if you plan to keep them at home, you're going to have special training to take care of them. Their sleep schedule is off. They can be aggressive and they can't take care of themselves. And they can walk, so they can get out of the house and walk in the street and you know, God knows, you know, just wandering, even in the middle of the night. And God only knows what could come up with that. Some people have died. They've been hit by cars out there wandering at night. So what is Alzheimer's disease and who came up with this name? This is a disease that affects the brain. If you take a CAT scan of the brain, you will see that the brain shrinks, it atrophies, it gets smaller. The brain cells die over time, and there is no cure. It's a progressive disease. There was a gentleman, his name was, let me see what his name, Alois. And by the way, Alois is my dad's name. Yeah, but his name was Alois Alzheimer's. He described this problem back in, it was named after him because he's the one who described it first. I guess he's the one who discovered it or named it. And he was a French psychiatrist and a pathologist. So he was a psychiatrist and he noticed he was seeing the problem with some of his patients. He was also a pathologist. So pathology is people who study diseases. And he named this disease in 1906. And since then, the disease has continued to soar to a point where we have about 50 million people worldwide affected. And that's not a big number of people, considering we have over 7.6 billion people in the world. So 50 million is not a lot, but it's a very expensive disease. For those who are affected, they know what they have to go through. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. So signs and symptoms. Most people lose memory. The other signs of this disease is remembering things, remembering conversations, remembering doing things. When people notice this, the earliest changes, the people who are affected are not even aware that they are forgetting things. You will have a conversation and you come back and they don't remember having that conversation with you. So most of the time they will accuse you that you're lying. Because
yeah, we have seen them.
Yeah.
I take care of some of them in the hospital.
Yeah. So I remember I had a nurse friend whose husband, and mind you, her husband was a congressman at one point. So these are not you are regular Joe kind of people. We even know a famous president who came down with this disease. This guy was very wealthy. Yeah. So, and it's not a new.
We know a president right now who is going through this, but they don't want to accept it. Anyway, continue.
Oh, okay. Wow. So yeah, it doesn't affect just the poor, because some people think it's all about food. When I talk to people about diseases, they're like, I eat very well. I'm like, well, man does not live on food alone. You know, there are other things. But so they accuse people of lying. So right there, and then I was telling you about the nurse friend of mine who had a husband who came down with this disease. He was very wealthy. He used to say, he used to claim that, God bless you, he used to claim that people are stealing his money, and he will accuse his wife of stealing the money. His wife used to go to the bank and get the bank statement and say, look here, Joe, nobody took your money. Your money is still in the bank. And he still, the next day, they'll have this conversation. Maybe even the same day, he'll accuse her again. So it's very, very, very difficult. And these people, when they accuse you, they're really serious. And sometimes they get aggressive. So this woman, by the time her husband passed away, she came down with cancer. Just the stress of going through everything that she went through. And these are people who used to cruise. They had money. They used to cruise around the world. I used to admire them. But when the husband got sick, it was downhill from there. So most people are not aware that they're forgetting things. And then they get paranoid. They start being fearful. So it could be maybe a mom who starts fearing her children. What do you do with that? Sometimes when the memories get really, really bad, they start repeating statements. They will tell you something or a story, and then you'll come back and they'll tell you the same story. They keep asking the same questions over and over again. Like I said, they forget conversations with people. They forget appointments. They forget events. They forget even familiar places. Eventually, they forget the names of family members. So you come home and your mom does not remember your name. She don't know who you are. It's very, very difficult. Even for the family members who are going through it, they find most of the time they're just brokenhearted when they see that. Eventually, they start even conversations. When they can't find the right words to describe a problem as time goes on. They are holding a pen and they can't remember that it's called a pen, you know? Identifying objects, expressing their thoughts, taking even part in a conversation. You're sitting at the dinner table and they can't even converse with the family members. They have difficulty with concentration, and especially when it comes to the numbers concept, you know? Eventually, the person with Alzheimer's is even unable to recognize things, even clothing. So the ability to take care of themselves really declines. It goes down. And sometimes you also see mental illness coming up, like inhibitions. They're not inhibited to do anything. So you might find them being very inappropriate, sexually inappropriate. You will see them disrobing in front of people, taking off their clothes. So if this is your mom or dad, and you've never seen your mom naked, or they're taking their clothes off in the living room, it's very difficult. They expose themselves to strangers, men pulling out their penis to strangers. Very, very distressing. So so you find that the personality of the person changes, their behavior, their mood. So, and this is why actually the psychiatrist, this looks like a physical disease, but really it's a mental disease. And that's why the psychiatrist was the first person to define what the problem was. So it is a mental health issue, but it goes deeper than mental health. Because we know everybody with mental health doesn't end up with Alzheimer's disease, even though some people do. So with the behavior, the mood changes and the personality changes, you might see depression. You might see apathy. What is apathy? Lack of interest, no concern, indifference. So this is your mom who always loved you, give you a hug. You come and, you want a hug from your mom and she don't care. It's like, who are you? Why are you coming to even touch me?
You stranger.
Yeah. So social withdrawal, mood swings. I mentioned distrust of other people. They start getting paranoid. They might even run away from home because they think the people at home are going to try and hurt them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Irritability, aggression, sleeping habits are off. They don't sleep and they won't stay still. So they keep wandering and walking up and down. Sometimes they fall and they break things. Then they're delusional. They start seeing things. So this is a full-blown mental health disorder. And so it's like psychosis, together with the brain wasting, the brain atrophy. So what are the causes? Talk about the causes for a minute. This is causes according to the scientist. This is not according to me, by the way. This is the scientist. Well, according to the scientists,
from science,
they don't know. They say the exact cause of Alzheimer's disease isn't fully understood. But they think it could be brain proteins that fail to function normally, a disruption of the neurons. Neurons are the nerve conducting cells. They also think there's a trigger of a series of toxic events. So neurons are damaged. The connection between each neuron is damaged, and then the brain is also producing toxic proteins that are called plaques. The real name is beta. Do you know how to pronounce this name? I didn't practice. Sometimes I have to practice. Beta amyloid.
Oh, beta amyloids. Okay, beta amyloids.
Yeah, but I call them plaques. Plaques is easier for me because English is my second language. So scientists believe Alzheimer's disease is caused by a combination of things: genetic, lifestyle, and environmental factors. And they think it's those things that cause the toxicity in the brain to where the brain starts forming these bad proteins that damage the neurons and they kill the brain cells. So that's what they think. But you know me, Alex, by now. Anytime you hear the word genetic, you can plug in a spiritual root right there. So always think about spiritual when you hear the word genetics. Yeah. So the process, this disease takes many, many, many years. From the time it starts, it could be like 20 years before you even see the first symptoms. So, but all along, I'm sure the people who live with these people always notice something. Yeah. And when they start forgetting stuff, that's a good place to start before their brain is wasted. That's a good place to start. So the proteins, the bad proteins that the brain makes the ones that are toxic, the one that kills the brain cells, they are called plaques, and also tangles. There's a protein that it has a Greek name. It's called the tau protein. It makes tangles. So I think that it makes like kind of like strings. So, I mean, the brain is messed up. Risk factors. They say one of them is age. And the reason why they say that is because they see it usually in older people, mostly 65 and over. But now I've seen people who are, and actually it surprised me the first time I met somebody who was in their 50s who had Alzheimer's disease. Now they're seeing it in younger and younger people. So age is not true, even though the scientists put it there. That's when you start seeing it. But really age is not true, because everybody who's old would have the problem. Then they think about family history. So now we are talking about risk factors. They think about family history and genetics. And genetics per se, genetics are not bad. We are not born with bad genes unless there's a spiritual root, you know?
But so, how can you convince science that? Because they say, they say everything's genetic, some of these things are genetics, and well, but you don't understand the spiritual root. But when you're on a deathbed, they want to send you a chaplain for what?
Yeah, go figure. Why is that? They couldn't say the chaplain before, not like the chaplain is gonna help. Because actually, if the chaplains were doing what they were supposed to do, we wouldn't be having all these problems. But yeah, there is a spiritual root. And so you're right, Alex. Science is a religion. It's a belief in things that you can see. But you know, most people who are spiritual, they know that there are things that we don't see, right?
Yeah, I had an argument with my friend that was trying to tell me, like, I have to believe science in everything, and I asked him, okay, let me ask you, when were you a monkey according to evolution theory? When were you a tadpole according to evolution theory? They didn't have no answers for me. I was like, wow. Well, I believe in science, and but it's not everything I'm gonna believe in science. I cannot question science.
Oh, I question it. I question it because scientists are not always right. But I love science because it helps me understand things. But beyond science, you have to go to the unseen world. If you understand the spiritual realm, you will understand many things.
And that's a problem. That's a problem you have mostly in developed countries. They don't understand the spiritual root cause of issue of other things because they cannot see them, or they study science, and if the science is telling them this, they're not gonna get on board with the spiritual part of it, and they are dying and suffering in silence because the science has literally failed them. There are diseases like ALS, AMS. These diseases are killing people right and left, but there's no one want to know the root cause of them.
Yeah, and at some point, Alex, we'll talk about all those diseases, MS, ALS. We'll talk about them so we can help the people. You know, people, if you're listening, you need to support us so we can bring you these things. We can research on them. And some of them, I don't even need to be told what they are. I already know. I've already done my research. All I need to do is put information together so people can understand it. But now, if you know God, you've never seen God, but you believe in God, how do you believe in God if you've never seen him? So most scientists do not believe in God.
They don't.
Absolutely not. They believe in other things because most people believe in other things, but science doesn't have all the answers. It has some, and I love science because I just love science. It helps me understand things, but beyond that, I go further than that. And then I look at the word of God and I see what could be going wrong here. But I also know that human beings are made of invisible parts, like your soul, your spirit. Nobody can test that, nobody can touch that, and nobody can treat it. So let's move on. Okay, so genetics, that's not true. All diseases, and let me say this, all diseases are epigenetics. So when science gets to the genetics and they stop there, you always have to dig a little bit deeper. What's making the genetics bad? Because if God built the first man and said it's very good, and we are talking about the creator of the universe, don't you think he knew what he was doing? You know, how could he say something is very good and then it turns out that it has bad genes?
And if you believe, we believe in evolution theory, so do you have monkey's genes? Do you have monkey genes or do you have adipose genes?
Yeah,
anyway,
Alex,
continue.
I can't even begin to tell you how many conversations I've had with those people, but now I don't even, if somebody wants to go there, I'm like, bye. Because you can't argue with a fool. You start looking like one. Okay. All right. So we're still talking about risk factors. Down syndrome. We know Down syndrome. We're not going to talk about Down syndrome today, but this is something that people are born with. So most people who have Down syndrome, they do come up, a lot of them, as they get older, they do come up with, they do develop Alzheimer's disease. And they say with people who have Down syndrome, it starts like 10 to 20 years even earlier than the general population. They also looked at women, and they said because women live longer, so more women have Alzheimer's disease than men. They looked at people who have had head trauma, and they said head trauma puts you at risk for Alzheimer's disease. And that might be true because head trauma is trauma. And there are things,
Let's move about football, contact sports.
Yeah, there are things that, we are talking like head trauma, like you get into a car accident and your head gets bumped, or you fall from a building, or you fall down the steps. Because of the fear that comes with such incidences, there are other things in the spiritual realm that happen that say you lose consciousness or you end up in the hospital. You know, when somebody has head trauma, you're thinking about death. You know, death has come. So if you survive something like that, that is very traumatic. And yes, that could be true. I can see how that can happen. People who drink alcohol excessively. But we've talked about cause and effect so many times, and there is always a cause. When you see somebody who is drinking alcohol excessively, that is a symptom of something else. Most of the time, it's a symptom of mental health or a spiritual problem. So that you start thinking spiritual.
I even know people in their 30s who has alcohol dementia and Alzheimer's, and they are Kenyans. No, Kenyans. Talking about Kenyans, not even like foreigners, Kenyans in the United States.
Yeah, there is something that's making them drink, and telling them to stop is not enough. You have to get to the root cause and fix that if you can.
Root cause, yeah.
People who have trouble sleeping, people who have restless legs syndrome. We're going to talk about that next week. Yeah. Risk factors. I'm still talking about risk factors. So research has shown that the risk factors are also associated with other chronic diseases. They think lack of exercise. We talked about that when we talked about obesity. You know, people who are just sedentary lifestyle. But when you see that, you always have to ask why. Why does somebody want to take care of their body? Why do they not exercise? Obesity. And when we dug deep on obesity, we found that there is trauma. Most people, those pouts, they are pouts of trauma. Smoking. I've always said smoking and anxiety disorder go hand in hand. Anxiety is fear. And the Bible, when you look at the spiritual world, when you look from the scientist perspective, fear is a negative thought because science thinks in positive and negative. Philosophically, fear is a bad thought. But spiritually, the Bible calls fear an evil spirit. So, who are you going to believe? Philosophers, scientists, or the Bible? You choose. I tend to believe the Bible. Other things, secondary, secondhand smoking. And we know if you live with an anxious person, obviously, anxiety is like a common cold. You will get anxious too. And they do say that people who live with people who smoke, if you inhale secondhand smoke, it affects the people much worse than people who are actually smoking. High blood pressure. We know high blood pressure damages your blood vessels, it hardens them. And what is high blood pressure? It's high tension. What brings the tension? Stress. What is stress? It's many things. Anything that steals your joy or your peace of mind, that is. High cholesterol, poorly controlled type 2 diabetes. So those are associated with Alzheimer's disease. High cholesterol, type 2 diabetes is a sign of inflammation. I have tried to define what inflammation is. So it comes from the root word flame. And because it's in, it means that there is a fire burning inside. So the question is, where did the fire come from? Who started the fire? Why did the fire start? And what keeps it burning?
And how can you put out this fire? Anyway, so as we continue to look, we're going to go to a commercial break, and we're going to come up. We're still on the courses.
Welcome to One Man at a Time, the Kenmen Show. Please like and subscribe to our channel.
The Kenmen Show. We are strong together.